Do you ever drive through Park Hall and wonder where the name came from? Park Hall. Was there ever actually a hall here? Well, yes, actually. There used to be a hall. Right here. For over 1,000 years. And it wasn't even demolished until 1968. There's been 3 halls here. We don't have any images of the earlier ones, but this is the Georgian Hall that was knocked down in 1968. I'm going to give you a brief history of Park Hall in this video, but if you do want a more in-depth history, then head over to my website, The Red Haired Stokey. I'll put the link in the description, which will give a much more detailed overview of the history of the hall and the estate. Back in the Norman times, which was 1066 till 1154, the Coiney family of Weston built Park Hall. In the early 1600s, the Coiney family sold it to the Parker family, and George Parker was the beginning of the Parker family in Staffordshire. And they all went on to be Justice of the Peace, lawyers, solicitors, MPs in London. Again, there's more details on my website if you want the in-depth history. And the Parker family then merged into the Parker Jarvis family, who were from Mefford Hall and were admirals and in the Navy and were a huge family. As you walk around the lake, which used to be the fishing lake to Park Hall, you can see there are some remnants. For example, there's the base of the boathouse still available if you look off the bridge. Park Hall would have been in the parish of Caverswall at that time, and if you go to St Peter's Church in Caverswall, there are epitaphs and memorials to the Parker and the Parker Jarvis family. If you head up from the lake, just up from the bridge, just hidden in this bush here, you may have noticed a strange crescent of bricks. This is the remnants of the ice house. And this is a very good example of a Georgian ice house, and I would absolutely love to dig this out and have a good idea of the scale of it, because they were usually quite deep and quite large. The basic function of an ice house like this, and the reason it's next to the lake, is because when the lake froze in the winter, they would literally go out and carve huge chunks of ice, bring it back and pack it into these little buildings full of straw, and that's how they had ice for their drinks and for food and things throughout the summer. It would literally last all year. And the water from this lake must have been really nice, because this part of the lake here, the other side of the bridge, is fed by a natural spring. And this must have flowed really well originally, because in the mid-1600s, Dr. Robert Plot, who wrote the Natural History of Staffordshire in 1686, actually visited Park Hall, and William Parker, George's son, took him round and showed him 2 oat mills that were powered by the water. So just to the back of the hall, where these bungalows are now, would have been the farm and the walled garden to the hall. Now, this wasn't a small estate. By the 1930s, Park Hall still covered over about 320 acres. And this photograph was taken in the 1940s. In 1793, there was a catastrophic fire, which meant that the hall had to be completely rebuilt. And this is when it was rebuilt as this hall, which is the Georgian symmetrical red brick hall that we've got the photographs of. By 1937, the whole estate was for sale, and in World War II, it was used by Pickfords for storage. It was the place that they put valuable furniture and artwork that they didn't want getting bombed in World War II in more urban areas. In the sales brochure, it does list all of the features of the house, so the cellars below, the servants' hall, how many bedrooms it had, the coach house, cart shed, laundry, a cottage, stables, pigsty, a walled garden with fruit trees, a greenhouse, cannons along the front terrace, forest, a summer house, an ornamental lake, which is what's left here now. And interestingly, in 1937, Josiah Wedgwood V considered Park Hall to purchase instead of Barlaston to move his Etruria factory, because the estate at 320 acres was roughly about the same size as Barlaston Hall, which is what they ended up purchasing. The most bizarre part of its history, though, is in the 1960s when it was turned into the Safari Lake Club and Casino by Joseph Jackson. It was quite literally a party venue with a jungle-inspired element. Things like an elephant's head, monkey masks, a bear statue. It was members only, and they had fantastic entertainment that came from all over the country. Bands played there and everything. But then, in 1967, a development company bought Park Hall to build the present housing estate. And, as usually happens in Stoke-on-Trent, it caught fire in 1970, and then it was demolished. So we lost over 1,000 years of our history so that they could build the housing estate that is there presently. And I think it's important that we learn from things like this. We've got 1,000 years of history there that most people in Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire have forgotten that even existed. So thank you very much for watching. If you do want to know more, head over to my website, The Red Haired Stokey, and don't forget to check out my other local history videos.